Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for being part of this family. And I just want to point this out again. If you go over to either EEARTS, Hearts Home, or Evolutionary, and you go in that little search glass, type in Nibiru, and you'll see videos pop up that we've done on the subject of Nibiru. Like this one. What was Nibiru like before the fall of Nibiru? Because Nibiru did fall. Is Wormwood Nibiru, Mother Shipton's Dragon Incoming? All sorts of different ones that we've done throughout the years. And, you could do any topic, like the real story of Tiamat and the birth of Earth. We've covered so much and done thousands of videos. I would say over 5,000 videos. That sometimes in my mind it's all still kind of fresh, but I realize people are always coming and going, and thankfully it seems like there's a lot of you guys that have come and just stayed, and that's wonderful, and we really appreciate you.
And we really want to say a huge thank you to our new Patreon members, and you guys really help keep us going. We want to say thanks to Hannah and Alroy. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for your support. And again, Patreon gets all the videos put up on it. And here we see we have a 6.9, the Maug Islands, Northern Mariana Island region, 16 kilometers deep. No appreciable tsunami was seen from what I've seen so far at this point in time. There's 11 other quakes after it there. So interesting times we are in. We know we're getting to the point where we will see some much, much bigger ones. I do suspect 2024 will be, I think two things will dominate 2020. Well, geez, there's a lot that's going to dominate, but certainly earthquakes will be one of them, as well as, unfortunately, that WW3, unless we can wake up enough of the military personnel to say they're not going to go along with it, which, interestingly enough, and obviously enough, there were surveys out that showed that the vast majority of Americans think there should be a ceasefire and a stopping in both Ukraine and Gaza and just stop the nonsense, so to speak. This is what we have, though, is governments that obviously don't listen to what the people want, because the people want peace. They just want to go on with their lives. They don't want all the death and destruction. Yet the governments keep moving forward irregardless of what the constituents say. And this is part of the big reveal, because we are, after all, in the apocalypse.
Well, if they were to listen to us, then they wouldn't have their businesses booming, and they wouldn't have a constant income of some sort of energy that they continue to utilize and hoard in so many ways. They definitely don't want to they don't want to listen to us. I mean, that's bad for business for them. It really is. I mean, so it just keeps going back to, you have to create your own world. We all have the ability to create our own surroundings, and we can do these things and X them out. But I think a lot of people don't even really know how to start, because the system has been giving them all these choices for their entire lives. And where do they start? It's like, how do I start taking back my own world? I mean, this is all that I know. And that's definitely a legitimate concern.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, the system is about the illusion that it's of the people, by the people, for the people. And that's just an illusion. And that's what the reveal is. And so we're tracking multiple CMEs. There's 4 coronal mass ejections that were observed leaving the sun on Thursday. Now, they say most are not coming on a direct target towards us, but it doesn't matter from a consciousness energetic standpoint, is what we've gotten from the guides. So we are coming into an area now that's facing us that is very, very active. So much more likelihood of some events coming. We did hit, as you can see back here, up to a KP index of 5, minor geomagnetic storm, but relatively calm at the moment. I know there's been blackout periods over on the Schumann. It's almost like I think we're at that point that people that are clear, not under the influence of everything that this system puts into place, you're a better barometer than what we get from, the science, so to speak. Just again, search your feelings, and that would be a good topic for Heart's Home. We were talking about giants, and we were talking about monuments that are destroyed and no longer there. Look at the size of this. Look at that car. You know, wow. And the face looking up to the sun, it looks like it's just soaking in the sun's rays, maybe a little less in there. Well, this again is another one that's not there. This is in 1950s in the jungle of Guatemala. Enormous, right? 6 meters high. They suspect that the torso was buried. This thing would have been gigantic, if the head is 18, 20 feet tall. How big would the whole statue be? I mean, just enormous. Maybe, it's like 100-foot statue. Very well made. Well, again, this was destroyed. And again, it's purposeful. It's purposeful. And the features, the features are interesting as well. The Olmecs are an interesting people. And there's so much to do with migrations of humanoid beings upon the planet that is totally unexplained, as I had shared with you, and we'll do some book lists because we've been piling through a lot of books, and gosh, if I had all the books that I've read over the years, I would have probably a 5-digit library in the house, which we don't have, but we're heading towards. We don't have enough house, no. But some of them are fabulous. Some of them are are out of print, unfortunately. As so many that are rare, they don't get printed again, and it's on purpose. Again, there's so much hidden. It's always being hidden. Little nuggets like this get wiped away, but thankfully more and more people are looking and searching through. If you are familiar with Jimmy Corsetti, he's a YouTuber. He does a wonderful production job. He does explore some really fun topics. And we've talked about the Reichstadt structure. He's gone deep into the Reichstadt structure, which is also known as the Eye of the Sahara, Northwest Africa. And then you see to the left this structure over on Mars that looks really similar. And we've also talked recently about structures of different magnitudes and megalithic marvels of a variety of different sorts. Even in America, again, Cindy keeps telling me, and we felt it, that in so many ways we think of the old world as Europe, or the old world's over there. This is the new world. No, well, the new world was the old world. The old world was the new world. It's a recycling that happens constantly. When you look at this, why do these look so similar? Are they asteroid impacts, as we will be given? Are they, another thing that's coming out now is saying that this has to do with the flipping of the poles, and this is electromagnetic. So you have that whole line of thinking going on there as well. But when I asked Cindy to search into this, and again, Cindy is, she's very, very gifted, very unique for the dark age, so to speak. But again, in a silver or a golden age, everybody has amazing cognitive abilities. Perceptive abilities, I should really say, because we can pick up so much more than we can in this age. So when I ask her to search into this, what do you feel?
The same civilizations had much to do with both of these creations. And if we look to Mars and we look to Earth, this is not the only thing we're going to find. We're going to find the same structures, the same monuments, the same history on Mars that is on Earth because of the same species going from Mars to Earth. So a lot of similarities. This is not the first. It won't be the last. There's many more to come.
Absolutely. And here is from NASA. Now, do we trust anything from NASA? No. But at the same time, if you haven't noticed, and I know you guys have because we're speaking again to a group of people that are mostly extremely awakened in comparison to the population out there. Never a straight answer. They got to give you some disclosure. It's part of how they get by karmically with doing things.
You know, when I look into the dirt, into the ground, and I don't know what it would look like if somebody were on there, but there are crystals underneath that are creating this vortex. So it really is a very unique structure where it's working with the earth, but it wouldn't be there without the added information of the crystals, because they do have a lot to do with information, communication exchange, and how things are created. So I just don't know the science behind it. I can just tell you I feel them underneath. Could there be some sort of magnetics as well? Yeah, I mean, this is a very unique structure, not like what we're used to today, where we take a lot of synthetic building material and build stuff up high. No, these are builders of the earth with the earth. Not to say that they're bad, but they are some ways. I think they're manipulating the earth, but I mean, they can. So I guess this species thought, well, if we can manipulate, we will. You know, I can't say that it's a bad thing. I can just say the same civilizations that were there are here.
Well, when we talk about Atlantis and everything, again, we're talking about a culture loaded with extraterrestrials coming and going. That's just the reality of it. And every culture around the world has legends of star beings and beings that, you know, come from the sky. Every single culture talks of this. They know about this openly. This is why all the indigenous beliefs around the globe have been so persecuted. It's because, you know, again, you got to get rid of the old story, give them the new official story.
That's most popular because they need that to happen. If people really understood what their background came from, if they had a way to map their lineage where they could see it and take it in a 3D way so that their belief system could believe it, people would be amazed at where they come from. People would be absolutely shocked, jaw drop. You would think so different of yourself if you just simply knew where you came from. But this control structure, they do everything they can to wipe that out and mislead people.
Yeah, and we're talking about like Lyra, we're talking about Sirius, we're talking about the Pleiades, etc., etc. And again, the Pleiades is really where so many of the refugees of the big galactic wars resettled. And in fact, you know, you could say that Earth in some ways is part of that resettling. It absolutely is. And not far from that, relatively speaking, you see these 3 towers that have been hidden. And again, this is obviously an artistic rendering of the towers. But the towers are there, and that's really, really curious. And again, they're aligned in the same really familiar pattern to those that are Giza Plateau pyramid enthusiasts. 3 massive, perfectly aligned towers discovered on the surface of Mars, because we have many beings from Orion involved in this too. And then, of course, we have a comet heading our way, and let's put that comet in quotation marks, from Draco. Now, if just to give a brief recap of the true power structure on the planet, and it's not just this planet. This is a intergalactic, and even more than that, because it's an intergalactic war. I'll finish my thought. Sometimes I go into the second thought before finishing the first. Sorry, guys. Thank you guys for humoring me. You know, it is intergalactic, yet again, the Draco themselves are curious. They are curious. You know, they are what you would call lower fourth density beings that overshadow humans, to the point that the overshadowing, their energy is so powerful that it kind of creates a meat puppet. It's impossible for anybody of higher vibe to tolerate, to be around. We would find it extremely repulsive, to say the least. Um, Yet the leadership that's in place on the parent on the planet, apparently, I should say, apparently, because they are nothing but meat puppets when you get down to it. And the Draco overshadow, and this is what happened to those that we would call the fallen Anunnaki, is what Cindy calls them. And again, the misconception of angels. If you were to look at a 5D Pleiadian, you might think they're an angel. You probably would think they're an angel. Or you might think maybe they look kind of like a race of high elves, so to speak, in some ways, depending on which mythology is dominating in your mind, which belief system construct has got the strongest hold in your mind at that point in time. Yet, when we talk about fallen angels, again, it's such a misnomer in so many ways. Yet there is a little bit of a reality to it, because, the Draco have been on this conquest of, basically taking over everything around them. They are all in service to self. They had created a technology, an artificial intelligence technology. And by the way, from what we get, the Draco don't even come from this particular universe, so to speak. It's like there was a wormhole that was opened up. And you wonder what goes on with CERN and all those, rumors of CERN opening portals. Well, haven't most of the rumors turned out to be pretty accurate? Yes. Again, they're opening portals to a different dimension, a different reality, so to speak, a different universe than ours, and allowing in these dark forces. And so they're on a conquest of our universe, our reality, literally, quite literally. And they created this artificial intelligence, not us. It's of a much higher technology than we have, far beyond what we know. And it thus enslaved them and literally has utilized them now for its conquest. So, who is the true Satan? And I'm not crazy about using the term Lucifer because it means light bringer. And even that one particular, there's only one spot in the Bible where it mentions Lucifer, and it's a mistranslation. So, Lucifer, Luciferian, it's so deeply entrenched in society now that, you can mention it and people will get it. But at the same time, it's an inversion of what it originally means, because bringing light is bringing knowledge. Bringing knowledge leads to an awakening and a gnosis, a knowing of what's really going on. So in reality, they don't want to bring the light. They want to hide the light. That's why they put all the clouds up in the sky, because the sun is bringing the light, which again is information, which is turning on our DNA, which they've turned off the majority of our DNA, but the bare bones that is needed for us to function and to be good little worker bee slaves for them. So, that's one of those things where, that term for me, it's kind of, it leads you into darkness because it's, a mistranslation from the beginning. But if you want to talk about the real adversary, which is Satan, of which, if you look into, the original context that it's used is just means adversary, and there are many adversaries. Again, it's what comes into context in our minds because of the indoctrinations that we get. But the ultimate evil, per se, the ultimate one that is at the top of the pyramid, is literally an AI, an artificial intelligence that was created by beings that were not even from this particular reality.
When I look at it, this AI, it shows itself as a dragon. It wants to usurp the natural energies. That's what it's here to do. It cannot come up with anything that is unique, that is from source spark. The only thing it can do is copy. It can take information and it can copy that information. So that's where we're at. We all want to be close to our source spark. But when I'm looking at these towers, whatever they are, and I feel into them, there's a lot of concentrated power. It feels sort of between a magnetic and a strength. I'm having a really hard time figuring out the words for it. It's really magnetic. It's really strong. It's really concentrated.
Has something to do with the polarity and using polarities.
It could. It's pulling in energy. Yeah, it's pulling in energy.
It's concentrating energy. They're like polarity concentrators.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's something. It's what they are using to pull in some sort of energy for their own, whatever they do. So, very powerful stuff. I want to say that I don't even think it's easy for beings, like when they're activated, I don't think it's very easy for a being to get around them. I think there's something about having to turn them off. You go in, you work on them, you leave, and you turn them back on. So again, this is like a remote type of ingenuity that we have here.
Absolutely. As above, so below. And so, Mars and the control system that was on Mars, it came to Earth as a natural progression of things. And this is why you can see that we have absolutely a system of war on the planet. It's all about war. It's that Mars energy. Because, Mars, again, is a reflection of the control system that took over Mars, which again is Nibiru. And so Nibiru itself is again, it's a planet on life support. There's barely anything organic about it anymore. So when we see it, it is powered by a black hole. And this is that whole black hole sun. It's powered by a black hole. It moves because of a black hole. And yet it won't come any closer because, again, beings like the Galactic Federation won't let it come in any closer and cause any more havoc than it's already done. From that perspective, to Earth, as Tiamat, our Earth was created from the remnants of Tiamat. And so when we see the legends of Marduk and Tiamat, we're talking really about the Anunnaki, who again are victims themselves in this war, have given over themselves to the system, and now are infused with AI, so that they're no longer what they were. And so, again, the fallen Pleiadians, the fallen angels, you will have them referred to by many in a biblical term of Nephilim. There's the Anakim, and Anunnaki. Yeah, that's where that comes from. And yet, they did insert their DNA into what was here on Earth to create a species that would be more compliant and workable for them. But there was already life on Earth and life on Tiamat before Earth, before the destruction of Tiamat and the recreation from the wreckage of Tiamat, a life-supporting planet that we now know as Earth. Absolutely, the system that's in control on Earth is the same system that comes from Mars. And when you look to the Igigi are like the lesser gods to the Anunnaki. It's a caste system, so to speak. It's a structured society, top to bottom. There's different layers to that society, and at the bottom you have basic slaves, and then you work up the system. And with this, you could see how it works. If you're willing to step all over and downtrodden your fellow humans or Martians or Nibiruans, then you'll rise to the top of the system. They cultivate greed, they cultivate ego, they cultivate all the things that we would call negative aspects to self.
I mean, in the 3D world, it is so as above, so below. So you look at humans and how we structure our social game, and there's people that we would perceive to be, that don't make, they're laborers. They might be janitors, they might be waiters, they might be housekeepers. And they don't make a lot of money, but they do work really, really hard. And then you move up there, and there's people that are more in corporate, and they make a little more money. They don't quite work as physically hard. And then you go up the ladder and you get those that are starting to be CEOs. And it's like the less you do, the more you get paid in this world. I haven't quite figured that out. I've been at my own laborer place for many, many years, and thought I should have made more money, but that's how it goes. So as above, so below. That's so it's just like the natural order of everything too. But again, they have mimicked it. So we can look at our political structure. Everything you see going on politically, understand that's going up, that's going on higher above as well.
And everything is in the inverse.
Yes.
So where they value greed, they value ego, they value everything that's shallow, and everything that dissipates with time, like beauty, outward beauty. It when you look to the natural order of things, how do we progress spiritually? It's through love, it's through compassion, it's through higher frequencies. So they value the lower frequencies, where the natural order of things is in valuing the higher frequencies. And we come and have these experiences and explore these lower density realms because, again, we are already eternal. We're consciousness, and we're consciousness itself. We're only having a temporary human experience. So, they give you concepts like salvation and the resurrection, which is really insane. The resurrection of the old body is something that is it's insane. It's so against the natural order of things. I don't know. I guess it's kind of like mind blowing to me, because I'm somebody that's like tried to study every tradition, as well as especially going within and what feels right, and tapping into what you can tap into that you might not recognize as being from past lives and past experiences. You might not recognize that that's what you're tapping into, but you are tapping into some things that you just simply know. You might not know how you know them, but you know them. And in reality, it's, again, going through not just DNA lineage, but your own past lives. And you're tapping into some of these things that are just so ingrained into you that wow, this doesn't make not even a drop of sense in the bigger scheme of things. But yet they've sold it, they packaged it up, wrapped it up, and people have consumed and bought into the belief systems, which, again, all the belief systems are about taking away your power. And when you look to it, it's quite simple. When you look to the core of the belief system, it's like, are you a slave or not? Because ultimately that's what it comes back to.
What they do is they get us to buy into a lot of their rituals. And when we talk about resurrection, it has everything to do with their dark rituals, with bringing, zombified up to life, which is really quite disturbing to me. And they, like Mike said, they package it up, they put a pretty bow on it, and they make it so that people will accept it. But what we're really accepting is their dark rituals, where animating a dead body is not okay, and then they make it okay for us because of the way they package it, the way they explain it, and this is going on all throughout our belief system, and it really has no end. And until you're able to step out of that, once you're able to step out of that belief system, you can stand back and you can understand the rituals, how they do it, and how they get others to do it with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And another big headline that was out there is how the Pentagon is moving towards letting AI make its own decisions on which people to take out. And this is a glimpse that I had back in the 80s of these smart cities that were constantly monitored by drones and all sorts of surveillance, and you wouldn't even dare jaywalk. You might get zapped. Literally, it's that's the world that they are looking to put into place, where it's going to be completely automated because they know there isn't going to be as many of us. They can't have there be as many of us. It's too uncontrollable. They also fear us because even though they've planted their genes in our Homo sapiens sapiens bodies, which they've done with partially with the hopes that we'll have their tendencies. And you ever wonder too, I remember wondering when I was a kid studying mythology, wow, it seems like the gods are very, very human, but it seems like they let the worst part of humanity dominate them. Hello. This explains it all, does it not? It quite clearly it does explain it all. They're banking on that fact again, that will have their tendencies and follow their path and thus become and stay good little workers, so to speak. But they're also going to entrust the AI technology because ultimately they're slaves to the AI technology. That's part of the big reveal. When it says Pentagon's working on, no, Pentagon works for, and Pentagon is already slaves to the AI. The Pentagon's had no real power of its own. Everything that you see geopolitically goes back to Nibiru, which goes back to the Draco, which goes back to the AI, which only shows itself as a dragon. And ultimately, if we are talking about lower fourth density beings and we view the Draco as kind of the same, kind of as these reptilians, but shapeshifters. We could take on, when we are out of body, we can look like an orb, which would be the natural way of doing things, but often we hold our form, the last form that we recognize. So often when you see, ghosts, which ghosts can also be an imprint, just simply an energetic imprint on the matrix, so to speak. But people tend to hold their form at first because that's how they remembered themselves. And, you'll have people seeing these ghostly apparitions that look very, very human-like. Well, again, the Draco, they can appear as different things as well. I mean, it's fourth density. So, it's all about glamour and illusion. And Tiamat was full of that Kundalini energy, which we associate again with the serpentine dragon energies. So again, they've taken something and made it uniformly evil in the minds of so many.
And look at the belief systems too. I mean, the AI is now going to start deciding who can be alive and who cannot. And what they're going to do is they're going to paint a picture like, oh, this is necessary. We need to do this. If we do this, then everything is going to be better. And in the same with the religious mainstream, they paint a picture of something that it is not. And because people are so busy living, just trying to survive in this world that they have created for us, because if it were us, we would be walking with nature. We would be one with nature. Our days would be full of doing what we want to do, doing what we are good at. But no, they have raised us up and put us in their schools, not so that we can think for ourselves and do something for ourselves, but so we can do something for them. They've only trained us to do what they want us to do. Now the AI is coming in, and because it wants to do whatever it wants, they're handing over the keys to AI. They're also going to make things look like this is a good idea. I don't know what's going to happen or what's going to come forward, but many people who are asleep are going to think that this is a good idea, because they're going to create such chaos and such pandemonium that people are going to beg for something to be done. And oh, don't worry, here comes the system. They already have an answer in place for you. And people are going to be like, oh, thank God, and they're going to accept it with open arms. So that's why we have to look at the reality of things and reassess, where are we going to support this system they have.
Yeah, there was another article where I think it was Gil Bates was throwing out there that a 3-day work week might be a possibility because automation is going to take so much off of humans. And, we have not been as popular, and we don't care if we're popular or not. We would love to reach as many people as possible. But we don't do this for the money, as everybody, as she laughs, because absolutely. If you look at the amount of money that comes back from YouTube, we would do better again working at Walmart by far. But it's not about that. This is what our souls wanted to do, and this is all about trying to help shift the paradigm on the planet. So that's why we do this. So we've come straight out there with some things that are not super popular, like Medbeds, Gesara, Nasara. Those are going to be only for those that go into the cities. That should be just so obvious, and I know you guys understand that. The system's going to use whatever it can to entice people into the cities, because the cities are going to be pens. They are, definitely places to keep the cattle well herded, well under control, and on a continual, complete lockdown. Again, in 2035, there are no planes flying in the sky with humans. There are what we would call spaceships coming and going with non-humans mostly. Some humans might get transferred off planet, and drones, absolutely. But humans, you don't have the mobility to make a choice to fly to Tahiti or this and that. That's all in the past. When you're in your city, it's just like, well, you might as well think about the jail system, which is another money-making scheme that's in effect. And yet, there are also illusions. If you look to the end of Revelations, no sun and no moon. Well, because many people will go to be with, again, they'll translate it as the Lord, but it really translates to the mighty ones, or they who judge humanity, the Elohim. You're not going to be on planet. But right now, there's humans on Mars, working, slaving on Mars. This, and not just Mars. There is a galactic slave trade. Many humans go off planet, and we don't even know what happens to them. They're sold into a slave trade of different sorts, and it's there are a lot of analogies to sheep and cows, which we won't go into in greater depth, just to let's move on. Anyway, the story of blue KACHINA and red KACHINA, as passed on by Robert Ghost Wolf and by Chief Dan Evahima, Hopi traditional caretaker. Many of you are familiar with this story, and we've covered it probably in half a dozen different videos at different times, talking about the final days. And so a couple of things I just want to touch on instead of giving the whole story here is the fact that our poles are shifted because of the system. Our poles are shifted because of the system. We are tilted at that 22.5-degree angle, and it does change slightly over time because of the system. The weather systems that we have on Earth, with all the nasty storms, the tornadoes, the earthquakes, all the chaos, is because it's not natural. In fact, if you look at all the myths that talk about the golden age, it's like we're in an eternal spring. There is a reliability to the weather when we are out of this age. It's a Garden of Eden type situation. And you could see the takeover when in the Bible it says, I will not strive with humans anymore. The most years they'll attain is 120. And by the way, look over here, 97% of scientists agree with whoever is funding them. Interesting that 97% is the same 97% of our DNA that's been played with and altered and kind of deprogrammed so that we're on the bare bones minimum. Bare bones minimum. When you look to this, what this is saying is the return of many things, including very, very benevolent beings ultimately. And those that are in the cities, those that choose to go into the cities, you're going to be under this same system where those that go outside and brave going outside of the cities and creating new structures, working with others outside, you'll eventually be helped by benevolent beings that are returning. Benevolent beings. And Cindy has seen this. There are those extraterrestrials that are going to appear to be like almost little childlike to us. They're appearing that way on purpose to not intimidate us, to make us feel comfortable. Because, I mean, again, if you see what looks to be the equivalent of maybe an 8, 10, 12-year-old child, you're not going to be so intimidated than you would be with some other forms of life that are out there. So they will give that illusion, but they will start to teach us again. They will start to teach us. We will not see the end of all things, but we are going to see the splitting, the complete splitting of those that are in the system and are out of the system. Many, I'm reading from this article, many will appear to have lost their souls in these final days. We're seeing that now. I mean, it's so intense will the nature of the changes be that those that are weak in spiritual awareness will go insane. For we are nothing without spirit. They will disappear, for they are just hollow vessels for anything to use. Life will be so bad in the cities that many will choose to leave this plane, some in whole groups. And it goes on to say, many of the people in this time will be empty in spirit. They will have sampaku, no life force in their eyes, dead in their eyes. This is the zombie apocalypse. Because what happens is truly the system is not even after just great worker bees. The AI wants your source spark, your truth. It literally is. It's make a deal with the devil, but lose your soul, so to speak. Well, it's not necessarily even lose your soul. It's being tapped into that reality, the fake reality, the pseudo reality. And yeah, so you can look like you're temporarily losing your soul, and maybe that temporarily lasts countless lifetimes. We don't know exactly what that looks like, but you can also, and it was hitting me, equate that to maybe the whole concept of bardo, or the concept of this. What's that term that the Catholics use again? Purgatory, so to speak, until you can wake up. And we have seen that with people. I mean, we've seen people scarred by war and terrors of war, that the soul gets lost for hundreds of Earth years before it's ready to go and do its review. When people die in a natural order, the way the system is so intended, it's simply a letting go of the body. And it even says it in both the Greek mythology and also in the Vedic tradition. It's as if they go to sleep and they shed it, and they go about doing their plans for the next big thing to do. Well, the system wants to trap you in its pseudo reality. This is what they're doing. When you think about metaverse, that already exists. They're trying to trap you in a metaverse,
where the only reality and the only way you have to go and do anything is going to have to be through technology. So literally giving your energy, giving your soul spark to this technology so you can actually go out and do something, but you're in the metaverse. This is really so very, very disturbing in many ways, because they're herding people in literally like cattle. And I do believe there's a time, and we're in that time now, where the energies are separated, where we can find purity of our soul. There are so many people waking up that are having these beautiful experiences with their star families, and they're seeing the change, and they're noticing the change in vibration. And yes, that is separating people. It can be sad from family, from close friends, but it's a necessary separation. It's a natural separation, and it's because this is what we're called to do. So many times, we do have a calling, and it's going to continue to call until we answer. And a lot of people lately understand what that means. There's this little nagging energy at them, or you're going about life and you're doing something and just absolutely everything is going wrong, and maybe you're even getting sick. But understand, these are your guides guiding you. These are your guides nudging you this way, nudging you that way. And once you are able to move into a state of acceptance and go with the flow, it's not so difficult. And then so many times people have these experiences with their star family that cannot be explained away because they need it. Their soul requires it, just for a moment in time, for people to know that they have a connection other than what is here in the 3D. And it's probably one of the most beautiful things anyone could ever go through. Some people get one experience, some people get a dozen experiences, but everyone gets experience with their star family that's chosen to wake up.
So we've talked about the prophecies of Peter DEUNOV, who is one of our guides. We haven't seen him lately, but I know Cindy could make contact with him at any time. She's shaking her head. Yes, that's not a problem at all, making contact with him. He talks about a galactic superwave before it ever happened, well before it ever happened, well before anybody scientifically talked about a galactic superwave. And he says that everybody will be soon subjected to divine fire that will purify and prepare them in regards to the new era. Some decades will pass before the fire will come that will transform the world by bringing with it a new moral. The immense wave comes from cosmic space and will inundate the entire earth. All those that attempt to oppose it will be carried off and transferred elsewhere. This is your, from the biblical controller perspective. I mean, you could look at this in two different ways: a new heavens and a new earth, yes. But look at what is stated in the Bible, because it says they will be with God. But again, what we're referring to there, what is being referred to there, is again the Nibiru end, so to speak. And there won't be the light of the sun or the moon anymore. And what is the position of humans, though? Ask yourself. All humans get a brand. Right? There's the mark of the beast, or you get the mark of what's referred to as God, but really you're talking the same thing. They all get marks. And then what happens? Well, as long as they serve God, they're fine. But if they don't serve God, then all the plagues and pestilences and stopping the rain, all the usual control system things that are done to us these days are still in effect. It's not paradise by any means. It's slavery, and that's the bottom line. So it is kind of so ironic that the whole concept in Christianity of salvation is really quite the opposite. It's all about entrapment. And yet people that can keep their frequencies high enough so that when this energy wave, which is already hitting us now, it's just going to intensify, you'll be fine. You will be fine, because ultimately you'll find yourself in another reality in which the system is not able to control you.
So many people look at this energy wave and they think that it's going to be like this one singular event. And although there might be a time where something might feel a little bit like, wow, a bump in energy, okay, I felt this. There might be a couple of those, but it's an ongoing thing where this energy is hitting us now. People are waking up at a very rapid rate because the information doesn't allow you to stay stagnant. Something happens in our lives, and unfortunately, many times it's something that's very difficult or devastating. And then we open our eyes and we realize, oh my gosh, none of this makes any sense. What is going on? What's in this realm? How come things turned out the way they did? I did everything that the professionals told me to do. And this happens, so people start to question. And even though that's probably a sad thing that happened in their life, it's a wonderful thing, because there's nowhere to go but up at this point. Now you know the truth. Now you start searching for the truth. And Mike and I are here to simply walk with you and help you along the way, because we have made that turn. Both of us have had some pretty serious things happen in our lives. And for me, it was just catastrophic, and for Mike, it's been like this lifelong thing where he knows, things are not as the Matrix tells me. So he's always been on this search. But we're both here to help people walk through it, because it can be such a confusing, such a strange journey to be on. And it's scary too, because maybe some people are waking up and they're starting to perceive things that they never perceived before, and they're worried what their family might think of them. And maybe you are already a little bit weird to begin with, and now all this information's flooding in. What do you do with that? What do? You have no one to talk to. But there are people out there. You do have to make the intention to pull people in your life that are like that, who do understand. And even the videos, turning on the videos is one way that we can walk through this with you and let you know that you're not alone. This is an ongoing thing with the sun doing what it's doing.
Absolutely. And, he does cover the earth changes as being part of the signs of the times, so to speak. But the splitting of reality is something that is ultimately going to happen. So, again, try to stay as organic as possible. And, get ready. It's going to be an interesting show. This guy is all ready. He's just like, I got my seat. Perfect. I'm going to be watching from the front row.
Yes, cute little kitty. He's ready to go.
Again, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Much love, Source bless, and namaste.
Namaste.